Welcome to the August 21st edition of the PFF Forecast. I'm George, joined as usual by the doctor himself, who has what appears to be a blackboard now behind him. That's what happens when you go to watch the Roar being restored, as he did, and he'll tell us about that journey to Indy that he took this weekend. We've got a fun show. We're going to talk a little bit about the Brady Oakland slash Las Vegas Raiders shenanigans, and we're going to talk week one. The PFF gambling product, betting product is back online on pff.com. So we're going to go over some of those, talk about some bets that we would place. And Eric has a very special, very near and dear to my heart take for this podcast. It's going to be a fantastic episode. Let's rock. Okay, so I woke up on Saturday and I just had some text messages from you, some pictures of a football stadium. You took a trip to personally view the restoration of the Roar.
I did. I did. By the way, I'm in my new office. This used to be my daughter Chloe's room. She wanted a room closer to my room and Stephanie's room, so she got that one. My wife did a really cool job of like putting the bookshelves and everything like to the sides here. I don't know if black is the right color for the for the walls. So I maybe can Woody Page like write my thoughts on it. But yeah, the Lions, our beloved Lions, played the Indianapolis Colts. As most people know, Indianapolis is about 2 hours away via car from Cincy. So myself and our colleague Dave Selfaro took a trip there. By the way, betting is legal in Indiana, so I had my app, my BetMGM app, and I was betting live along with the Detroit Lions as they were trying to come back.
Wow.
But also, what was really cool was, we, as everybody knows, we have team clients in all 32 teams, and so we have a decent amount of friends throughout the league. So I was able to get a sideline, pass to pregame. Got to watch and talk ball with some people, which was a lot of fun. And then the Lions won by one. I didn't have it in me to stay for the whole game, so we were in the car on the way home by the time the Jack Cohn era in Indianapolis had started. But yeah, it was a good time, and I think the Lions are going to be good at the line of scrimmage. That was something that was fairly apparent yesterday, even with their backups. But not a lot to take from a game where David Blau and Nick Foles was two starting quarterbacks. But it was a fun stadium. It's unlike any other stadium I've been to, Lucas Oil.
What was your um analysis on Dan Campbell? Like, were you watching the sideline? Were you noticing evidence of him doing things that seemed I don't know what the right word is, but like I just expect that on the sideline, he's doing the exact same thing that he does in on the show on Hard Knocks. Like he's just every quarter, it's a new pump up speech where he finishes it with "Come on, man," and tears in his eyes. Was that happening?
I could feel like, so we got good seats as a preseason game. I could feel the testosterone
Mm,
from where I was sitting even. Um, I think
I don't even know what that means.
I could just feel it. But like, no, the only time I really like honed in on Campbell, there was a sequence at the end of the first half. The Lions were down 7. David Blau was driving the length of the field, and they got to about like the 10, and they called their last time out when they got the first down to get to first and goal. And then there was probably 30 seconds left, and I hope, I pray to God, and there's evidence that this is the case in the NFL. I pray to God that he was just testing Blau, but on first and 10 they ran like up the middle, and and then the second play, Blau like got everybody lined up. So it looked like this was like deliberate to sort of like run a drill basically. But like they ran up the middle, got stopped at like the 3 or 4 yard line. Everybody got into place, and I had under 19 first half, so I wasn't actually that upset like that they were going to bungle this at first. Um, but then they get up
Mhm.
there, and Blau like takes the snap, throws a fade, incomplete, and so it's like third and goal with like maybe 4 seconds left in the half. Um, and he throws a touchdown on the next play. But I was watching Campbell sort of operate during that time, and he did like it was pretty interesting. Like I'll just say that I think it was a drill, and I don't think they cared as far as like if the clock ran out or whatever. They were trying to get David Blau doing something kind of end of half kind of situation, but that was interesting. I was a little bit perplexed by that, even that drill here.
I gotta say, that was the most insightful analysis I've heard from a preseason game thus far. But that means that our quota for preseason analysis is now up, so we can't talk about anything else preseason wise. Even though there have been some interesting things, like Kenny Pickett's played well. I think Malik Willis is going to be playing in Tennessee pretty early on. Antonio Gibson finally has lost his spot. Thank God. That means I don't have to draft him in fantasy again. And one player has been noticeably absent. Maybe we can talk about this. Brady, Tom Brady, has been absent from the Bucks. Now, if you read Reddit or other conspiracy theory blog posts, you will hear that Brady is performing on The Masked Singer this year, which is, by the way, a Fox broadcast. Obviously, he signed that huge deal with Fox, so
I
you
didn't
could
even think
see
of that.
that. You
That's
could
the
make
funny thing.
some
Yeah.
sense of that conspiracy there. Yeah, there's some reasons to believe that that could be the case, but then there's also you hear rumblings of, well, maybe it's something with Giselle or something like that. I actually the number one thing that I think about how close he is with his family. His mother has been ill for a really long time, has been battling cancer. It makes the most sense to me that it would be something around, his parents that he's dealing with. And obviously she's been, sick before, and he's left to go tend to her and be at her side. And that would obviously support some of the secrecy around why he's not there, why they're kind of keeping things mum. I guess, do you have any information that I don't? And what do you make of his absence? Does it concern you at all if you have, Bucks futures, or if you're betting on the Bucks, say week one, for example, against Dallas?
I do have Bucks futures, and I am nervous. I gotta say, because the thing is kaput if Brady, obviously, we're not to come back. I'm more worried. By the way, as you can imagine, we have experience with this. Our own Mike Renner had to leave. The toil that is PFF for 3 or 4 weeks to star on The Bachelorette. Um,
Hmm.
I
Yep.
tapped into his brain this week, asked what that was like. He said this is common. So if people were wondering if this actually happens, the answer is yes. People do leave their like day jobs for these things. But that's probably not a thing. My biggest one is, Brady has been so single-minded in what he's been in his career, right? The idea that he's had every day mapped out for the last like 3-4 years or whatever is not lost on me. And so I wonder sometimes about you know not that he's not going to come back and play, but I remember Brett Favre with Minnesota. 2009 happens. They want him. He wanted to play in Minnesota in '08. The Packers traded him to the Jets. They put in that clause that the Jets would have to give up like 4 first-round picks if they went around and flipped him to an NFC North team. And so he plays a year with the Jets. He retires, says no, no, no a bunch of times, then comes back. Funny when training camp is over, right? He doesn't want to go to Mankato. He goes straight there.
Hmm.
He takes the team to the NFC Championship game, plays fantastic football. gets hurt, gets banged up. The next year, like he doesn't want to play. Like literally, it wasn't even a show. He just didn't want to play. Brad Childress sends Ryan Longwell, Steve Hutchinson, and I can't remember the third person down to Hattiesburg to like basically drag him back to Minnesota. Plays like horseshit, and then retires.
Mhm.
I do wonder with Brady. Now the Bucks got 2 years out of Brady. They got a Super Bowl win. He comes back last year, plays fantastic football again. But my worry is that his heart's not in it, right? And again, like that's that. I'm not casting judgment on him. I'm just saying that like that's my worry is that like
Mhm.
when you've been playing that long and you already decided to hang it up, then you come back, and then this could very well be like a legitimate personal issue, which of course, matters. And maybe the guy just kind of has a little bit of perspective on it. Like,
Mhm.
hey, this
Mhm.
is this, this stuff means more to me now. I don't know, but like that's kind of if I'm betting and I have Tampa Bay futures. With my Tampa Bay futures, that's what I'm worried about. Is not that he comes back to play, but more that he is as good as he's always been.
I am because I haven't heard this now. Maybe it's just because I haven't heard it, but because I haven't heard it as a reason, I believe that it is the reason. And I'm going to go ahead and say this is, related to the health of his parents. And I'm going to say that that inspires him and that he comes out and just lights the Dallas Cowboys on fire. Love the Bucks week one. I'm doubling down on this. They're less than a 3-point favorite. And I, look, I like the Cowboys enough as much as the next person, but um the Bucks are simply a better team, I think, basically across the board. And if you give Tom Brady that opportunity, I'm going to go ahead and take it. Yeah, they're -1 in Dallas. Total 50 and a half. So
That total, by the way, has dropped significantly. And maybe I'll bring this up here because our betting models right now kind of like a few of the overs in the
mhm,
NFL in week one. Um, that's always dangerous, right? Because um, last season you sort of have league wide scoring environment a little bit lower. You have an issue with later on in the season, totals kind of like again, you had like less scoring in the league relative to you're used to. And but then week one, first like 3-4 weeks of 2020, overs hit at like a 66% clip. We're sticking with like a league wide scoring environment of 2018, which generally served us okay on totals last year. But that is an interesting, like, it's an interesting conundrum. Like, I'd rather be on overs in the NFL than unders just because I like the bet type more. But there are a lot of games, and this one, Tampa Bay, that's gone from 52, I believe, to 50 and a half, which is through a key, like 51 is a key-ish number in the NFL. So that is,
mhm,
that means something when I look at it. But what do you think? The one reason I'm really happy that we're on this side, we have not seen in the preseason, but there is like a little bit of an emphasis this year in terms of having like
mhm.
more illegal contact penalties. And like that's a possession per game, right? And you think of a possession per game as about 2 points or so. You can think about that as a increasing league wide scoring environment by like a 2.5 points or so. That is significant, and it would make me want to be on some overs relative to most years.
Yes, I feel good about the overs that we're on, by the way, on PFF .com. These are now live, green line, both NFL and NCAA. So you can go see where our models have everything. And I was very nervous because you never know how that league wide environment is going to look. But I mean, I don't know how you could make a case that it's going to look like it's not supporting a scoring environment. And I'll give a couple of reasons. The first is teams are now used to playing with crowds once again. That last year they were surprised by it. We've got a set of quarterbacks who were drafted last year who had some tough rookie years, but now have by and large better situations, except for Justin Fields, and will be able to hopefully start creating some bigger plays, throwing the ball down the field, and taking advantage of the more illegal contacts that are going to be called. And so I feel really good about it. I look at a game like, for example, Bears 49ers, which is at 42, and with the Niners favored by 6.5. And you think about the dynamics of this game, and God, I mean, Nick Bosa is going to be the favorite for defensive player of the year after this game because he's going to be going up against this Bears defensive or offensive
The
line, which is just
vaunted
such
Bears.
a complete travesty. I mean, they have Brax. Yeah, I mean they have no one good. They have the 65th out of 83 ranked tackles on the right side and a rookie over there on the left side. Justin Fields holds onto the ball longer than anybody else. I mean, the Niners are going to win this game by 42. So, I like being on the over there. I think it's a good spot. I also, quite frankly, kind of like the Niners minus 6.5 as well. The Bears are just absolutely terrible.
Well, and I think like the one there to me is that's an yeah, that's one where the Niners could pick it up their entire um that's where they could pick up, they could pick up all those points themselves, right? Like I think that's a pretty big that's a pretty big win there. The other one that I like is Detroit versus Philly. I like over in that game just because I think it's not clear to me that the Eagles, the hype is all with the Eagles offense. It's not clear to me that defensively they're all that. And like, I like Detroit a lot, but I think that defensively, that's where they're going to lag behind. I think we're going to be surprised by how good the offense is for Detroit. I think if the defense is good, we're going to be very, very surprised. So I think that over is another one that I really like
46
in
and a
week one.
half. Yeah,
Yeah,
46
46
and a
and a
half.
half. And that's one where I believe early in the process, we were able to get over in that game when it was, south of 45 or so.
There are a couple others that I do like. You talked about Bucks, Cowboys. I'll throw a couple out here at you. What about and this kind of flies in the face of absolutely everything. But Browns, Panthers in Carolina, you've got Brissett instead of Watson, but you've got Baker making a return at home though in Carolina against the Browns. 41.5. Now, I don't have a ton of excitement for, either of these teams offensively, but 41.5 is pretty low. And Brissett, while not, going to light the world on fire, he's playing with Stefanski and some weapons. He's got, I think Amari Cooper has been dramatically underrated here. And we'll be able to get open. 1.5 just incredibly low. You've got a lot of talented skill position players on both sides. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson in Carolina, plus McCaffrey, ideally healthy there. So that's one that I like as well. And I think there's some other stinky ones like Saints Falcons over 41.5. I think I like Browns Panthers a little bit more than that because I don't know. Marcus Mariota very much scares me, but the Saints, of course, could put up 41 and 42 themselves. So I like Browns Panthers over 41.5.
Yeah, that one's one where I hope that gets to like a 2.5 point spread so I can tease the dog in that game
Mm-hmm.
because I think like if we don't get over, we are going to get a close game and not that many points scored. But and not that many points being the sort of differential there. So that's an interesting one. I do think like if you're a better right now, and you want to, look at what the PFF forecast like bet of the week would be right now, I do think it'd be that Detroit Philly over 46.5 because again, like I think both teams offensively at the line of scrimmage are very good. And I think, the one thing I did hear about joint practices this week with the Colts was exactly that, but I heard about both sides of the ball. I heard that the defensive side of the ball for for the Detroit Lions was better than people believe, which means you might get some strip sacks, you might get some short fields, type of thing. You're going to get a lot of variance in that game, which I think is really going to point towards points. So that's one. Again, I don't think I like, if that thing gets down to like -3, I do think Eagles are a play, but that's only because you're getting the bump from the TV show.
Before we move on to some potential teasers, let everyone know that you can go to Underdog Fantasy. It's the easiest place to play fantasy football this summer because Best Ball does not require you to make in-season moves. You draft your team, and then every single week, the highest scoring players in each slot automatically play. And you can win some serious money. They have $10 million in total cash prizes with Best Ball Mania 3, and it's not an arm and a leg to join either. You can join leagues for 5, 6, 7, 10, $25. It's not a ton. So go to Underdog, download the app, and if you use promo code PFF, you can double your first deposit up to $100. And if you play 10 of those dollars using promo code PFF, you get a free PFF Plus subscription, which is an $80 value. So it behooves you to go to Underdog Fantasy or underdogfantasy.com and start playing some best ball. Also, 25% off with promo code Forecast at PFF on a PFF Plus subscription. So go use that promo code FORECAST or deliver it to someone that you love and give them all of the great PFF content. It unlocks absolutely everything on the website and that includes the player props tool. God, can't wait for player props to be back. And of course, the betting dashboards that we were talking about with Greenline, both NFL and NCAA. I honestly, I was thinking about this, Eric, like as I was getting back into kind of the mindset, if you will. And the idea that you would bet on NFL football games without real NFL reasons to back them up just blows my mind. But there are people out there. So give them the gift of PFF with promo code Forecast. They get a little slice off, and then you can go buy a drink or something like that. Go to pff.com. And rumor has it there will be another way for you to consume great PFF content. Maybe in the metaverse, on your phone. Who knows? There'll be something cool coming your way soon. So go get it while it is hot. All right. There are some teasable numbers. And I want to start with a teaser leg that I very much like. It doesn't get us through 8, but it gets us to 8. This is the Green Bay Packers going to Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings are +2 at home. And I like getting the Vikings out to 8. Total 48.5. But I am going to reserve. I want the Packers passing game to prove it to me first. Okay. And I have an incredibly hot take about Aaron Rodgers and what has gone on with him this offseason. But I will save that for just a second and get your reaction to your Minnesota Vikings with a new offense, new head coach, getting 8 points at home against the Packers as a part of that teaser leg.
Yeah, real privilege there in Minnesota. I think the Vikings have had some encouraging things. They've had no real like Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins fighting sort of thing like they had last year. That's encouraging. That's encouraging if you're a Vikings fan. They have not had any the injuries have not really been bad. I mean, Irv Smith injured his thumb, but you haven't had you look at the contrast between them and the San Francisco 49ers, the team that they just faced in the preseason, but also in the joint practices. And the Niners have the list of players that they have that have soft tissue injuries is immense, right? Mm-hmm. And the Vikings, they're not a great team as far as depth. They're not a great team as far as the premium positions other than wide receiver, but they do have superstars on their team. And if they do stay healthy, they could be good. And it's a big game for the Minnesota Vikings. If you look at their schedule, They could, they open with Green Bay, and that's a home game. You don't want to drop a home game, but also drop the Green Bay game. Then they go to Philadelphia and play on
Mm-hmm.
Monday Night Football against the Eagles. Then they come home and face the Lions, and then they have the Saints. Like, if they anything short of starting that 3-1, 2-2, it would be a failure for that team, right? And so it. But if they start out 0-1, the Eagles are going to be favored against them in week 2, and so you don't want to start 0-2 again. Um, that's kind of, yeah. So I agree with you. I think like this is a big game for the Vikings. The only thing I have, there's two issues I have against that being a teaser leg is you're not getting through the full 8, and 8 does matter in today's NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Total on the game is 48.5, which is a little high to be thinking about Wong teasers, especially
Mm-hmm.
in a slate that has enough totals kind of near 45 or lower. So that would be another reason not to bet it. And the third reason is I think Minnesota you're going to get that second half. You're going to get that half point. I think, this opened at 1.5. It's now 2. I've seen it some places, maybe out to 2.5. I think you want to get the full 2.5 if you're going to Wong tease, because the total is high enough where there's enough variance where you're going to want that last point there.
Okay. I those were the points I think that I thought you were going to make. And I can get on board. There are some other teasable legs out there, no doubt about it. One, in fact, that I'm very excited to talk about. But I wanna run this Aaron Rodgers take by you. Okay. So I have become obsessed with I cannot get enough of this content. After watching the Aaron Rodgers interview on that podcast he did with a guy named Aubrey Marcus, I have uncovered this like culture and community cult, for lack of a better term, that is a lot of people from by and large our generation who are like having this renaissance around like alternative medicine and psychedelics and how it's opening up their minds to love each other and one another and how powerful all these things are and yada 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 yada. Again, I have talked about this before. I am all for self-love. I'm all for healthy mind, healthy body, do all those things. I'm just not here for you to spend your money on alternative medicine for you to get there. I don't think you need to do that. So I look back at Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is very good friends with this Aubrey Marcus guy. He kind of likes and supports all these things on Instagram. And I've just been following along. I've been consuming all this content, Eric. Like
Love it.
it's I've sent it some of it to you. I sent it to all my friends. I can't get enough of it. So if we rewind a little bit, we of course remember that Aaron Rodgers is kind of estranged or still estranged from his family, right? He notoriously is not, close with his parents or his brother. And my hot take, maybe this isn't even a hot take, just a take, is that Aaron Rodgers is actually kind of morphing into and this whole kind of cult slash culture is morphing into the things that they didn't actually like about their parents' generation. So, like you're growing up and you're going like, oh, my parents' generation, they've gone crazy, they've gone mad, they believe in all these things that are complete baloney, they're this politically, they do this, yada yada yada. And so I just think it's it's crazy because I see that generation. I think about Aaron Rodgers. I think they're actually turning into their parents. It's like is it the Allstate commercial? Not Allstate, Progressive. It's the Progressive commercial where people are turning into their parents. That is what this is. I think it is absolutely ridiculous and crazy, but I think I've finally figured out what is happening. And it's a good reminder to all of you out there, you too, Eric, me as well, to stay sane in these crazy times.
It's crazy, right? Because I think like a lot of this is just, and we're in the podcast era. We're in the sort of like, and we have this a little bit, right? Like I get like 15 emails a
Mm-hmm.
week basically being like, hey, how can I get your job? And it's like, we're in a era where people have, largely we're very, very much more explicit about seeking out mentorship, I guess is the way to put it,
Mm-hmm.
or seeking out people to emulate, right? Let's say that. So we're much more, okay, I want to listen to, the Ezra Klein podcast, or I want to
Mm-hmm.
listen to the Joe Rogan experience, or I want to listen to, and like, and take Joe Rogan for a second. Joe Rogan's podcast is extremely popular because he puts people on that show that people look up to, right? Like he just had like Mark Andreessen on. He
Mm-hmm.
has like, you know, his friends in the comedy industry, but he also has like people who are extremely well thought of in a lot of different circles, both left and right. And people like just to take to emulate other people or take advice or get and historically that was a position held more centrally, right? It was a position held by like a pastor
Mm-hmm.
or a football coach or a teacher or your parents. And I think now, because people have access to so many more opinions, and whether, again, you can be the judge of like whether or not those opinions are good or worthwhile, but they have access to so many more of them, and I think, and like some of those, and they're more welcoming in some way. Like you pick the one that's welcoming to what you already wanted to do, right? And I think in the case of Rodgers, he wanted to experiment with all these things, and he found a community that was willing to support him there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're very much right. I just think it's kind of incredible to watch happen. And see it happen. Anyways, that was our non-football portion of the podcast. Hopefully everyone called out where those occurred so that you can skip over them. Before we move on to a few more teaser legs that we like, college football. It's back. It's back, baby. And it's time to enjoy the tradition of fun and the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. Celebrate the best time of the year right now. New customers can bet just $5 on any team and get $200 in free bets instantaneously, win or lose. If that's not enough, you can go place a same game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. Just combine multiple bets into one, like, which team will get the win, which team will score first, how many catches will so and so have, and you've got yourself a little parlay. Just be careful. Same game parlays. You don't want to, do anything stupid. So make sure that you've got some plays that make sense, things that are actually correlated. Don't be hoodwinked, bamboozled. Come to PFF. Make sure you got yourself in a good place mentally. DraftKings safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $5 on college football and get $200 in free bets instantly. That's code PFF on DraftKings Sportsbook. 21 and over in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Apparently in Missouri, it's 12, like it is for everything else. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for terms and resources. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or hit Eric up on Twitter. In Tennessee, call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Incredible. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text Hope NY. I'm just gonna start texting Hope NY my same game parlay. See how that goes. One per new customer, minimum $5 deposit and wager, $200 issued in 8 $25 bets. The big takeaway here, Hope NY. That's what you need. Speaking of hope, I want to go to this game because I promised everyone at the top of the podcast there would be a take that you have that I am particularly excited about because of a take that I had last year, which I actually felt was kind of proven correct. But let me take you to Miami, where the New England Patriots open up at 1 p.m. The Miami Dolphins are a 2.5 point favorite. The total is 44 and a half. Now, you get the common takeaway here, which is you're playing a game in September in Miami. People are going to be tired. What I love about this and why I like this as a teaser leg, Patriots out to 8.5, is you've got Bill Belichick going against Tua. Not a huge believer in Tua. He have a 68.3 PFF grade last year. And then on the other side, you've got a New England Patriots team where I just don't have a ton of excitement about the talent of that team. And you have a low total, and I just figure this is a close game that kind of stinks in the end. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Now, I've been asked a lot on the radio lately, uh, what I think about this division. And I tell everybody, like, because I think everybody's framing the AFC East this year as Dolphins or Patriots as the team that's going to, finish second place to
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And I say I don't like either team. But I specifically, after watching New England the last, couple weeks, but also, reading a decent amount about kind of how they're operating offensively, and then really coming face to face with like who's on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Patriots might suck, man. Like
Uh-oh.
I can't like,
Uh-oh.
and I like look, Belichick is the best to ever do it. Like we had to go through this entire preamble because it's a thing, right?
Yeah, Patriots
But
fans have some issues.
let's look at the brothers in Christ that are playing for this team on the defensive side of the ball. Devin McCourty might be a Hall of Fame player. Um, they have Gotchow and Lawrence Guy on the interior defensive line. Those are like, a little bit better than replacement level players right now in their career. You have Matthew Judon, who's fantastic. You have Josh Uche out of, I believe, Michigan, who
Yes.
has really not done much in his career. You have Raekwon McMillan, who, again, is a second chance kind of player. Bentley at linebacker is okay. And a phrase that I heard in the middle of the broadcast the other day when watching the New England Patriots was Jalen Mills has become a leader in the secondary. Guys, I'm not sure that that's really what you want to say out loud. Um, but if you look at the rest of the secondary, you have Jonathan Jones, you have Terrence Mitchell. You don't have depth here. Marcus Jones, who's I liked out of Houston. Don't get me wrong. He's small. He's a rookie. You don't know what's coming there. So defensively, you went from a team that had 2 years ago J.C. Jackson and Stephon Gilmore to neither now. McCourty's 1 year older, but he's still, that's like the star on the defense. Judon's a player, but I think Judon's also a player that, that defense scheme stuff for. I don't like, I think Belichick's coaching can get that defense in the top 12, let's say. Okay. But then you look at the offensive side of the ball, and, you have Trent Brown, Isaiah Wynn. Onwenu's fine. Strange is like a first round pick, but like wasn't even supposed to be. Andrews is a good center. So their offensive line is better, but worse than last year. I'll say that. You have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith at tight end. It's like, whatever. And then wide receivers, you have Aguilar, Myers, Parker. Tyquan Thornton just got injured, the rookie second round pick that they drafted. And at running back, you're fine, but you lose James White again for another year. He retires. And you have Matt Patricia or Joe Judge calling plays. Like, does this add up to a team that's going to be good, George?
Man, they're coming. I can hear the Bostonians coming for us. I think that their path here, I think their path, Eric, is that they're going to just run the shit out of the ball and see where that gets them. Because the strength of this team and their first round pick, by the way, um, left guard, Dr. Strangelove, their running backs, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, are arguably the best skill position players on the team. And Mac Jones, even though he ended up with an 80 PFF grade last year, down the stretch, it was not pretty for him. The wide receivers, tight ends, as you said, I think are pretty bleh. Like Hunter Henry's nice, but I don't know, man. I like that's definitely one of the weaker receiving cores in the NFL. And yeah, I think it's going to be very tough for them. Now, I'm the last person that wants to doubt a coach as good as Belichick in terms of the pieces that he's put around, and him seeing things that obviously we do not. But Yeah, I agree with you. And I got lambasted last year for saying they went and spent all that money in free agency at Target when, they basically saying they overpaid for things that were average. And Target's a wonderful store. I love Target, but like you look at this team now, Eric, okay? And you go, is this the type of talent that last year we we literally emptied the bank account for? Like it, it doesn't look that way to me. Like if you spend all that money and then a year from now you're looking at the team and this is what you see, I'm kind of like, hmm, maybe maybe George was onto something. Maybe they shouldn't have spent all that money.
Yeah, I love bringing that back to how you were right. But yeah,
Thank you.
that's a good
I look,
that's
I
a
took a lot of shit for that, okay? A
I
lot of
know.
shit.
And that unlike the Pittsburgh take, it wasn't immediate. How correct it was.
Right.
But certainly you were not wrong. You were just a little early on the Patriots. I
Thank you.
think that's yeah, I mean it's just I think we have to face facts that Bill Belichick, the time the league is just the league is smarter now, right? Like the league is not going to let. And granted, like we can get into the year and like he comes up with some defensive scheme that completely baffles the opposition, and maybe being physical up front. Really, like last year, they were really great in the middle of the season because they were so physical on both lines of scrimmages. And again, like I'm more convinced now than ever. It's sort of this like weird thing, but like if you're not going to have an elite quarterback, you better be really good at the line of scrimmage. And the problem is like obviously the resources that you spend to be really good at 9 positions can oftentimes keep you away from that one position, right? From being great. But it's so they're good there. They're worse there than they were a season ago, though, which is important
Hmm.
to note. And with Mac Jones, like this is the classic, right? You overachieve as a rookie, your play caller becomes a head coach as a result, and then you struggle in your second year, and everybody's like, "Well, what happened?" It's like, well, you had to learn 3 different play callers in 3 years, including college. You've had to adjust to by all accounts, it looks like Mac Jones has taken his career really seriously. Physically, he looks in better shape than before, and so there's a ton like to buy into Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a winner. Like there's a little bit of as far as like he won in college, he's won in the NFL, and you do watch him play, and you're like, okay, he kind of does get the whole like clock management thing. But you know, at the same time, again, like I think there's limits to all these things, right? And Joe Judge and Matt Patricia is sort of like I'm going to shoot this from 35 feet and see if it goes in. And that, sometimes it goes in, not all the time.
That is a very underrated part of this whole story. And one of the reasons why I think they're just going to run the ball, because if there were two guys that you didn't want designing your passing game offense, like those would be like if I was placing coaches on another team to make that team bad, Joe Judge and Matt Patricia would be, be like those two players. Like if I had to give your Chiefs a couple of coaches to try and overcome, it'd be like, hey, guess what? Patricia and Joe Judge are designing your offense. Good luck, Pat. Enjoy that. That'll be
Yeah.
fun for you.
By the way,
So,
can we take this back to the Chiefs for 1 sec?
of course, why not?
How good does that? I don't mean to like. I don't mean and the preseason is meaningless except when it
Oh no.
confirms what I've thought the
Oh
entire
no.
time, which
Oh
is
no.
that offense. Pat made some throws yesterday that like I think it was Pacheco or Edwards-Helaire completely whiffed on a blitzer, and there was a guy that was just like a clear run at Patrick Mahomes, and he stood in there and threw this like basically like over route to Justin Watson that was about it. Like yesterday they were without 2 of his top 3 receivers, and he was still like 2 for 2 scoring. I here's a little bit. And I tweeted this out today. He's 9-1 on DraftKings. I'm assuming he's similar to that everywhere else. They play Arizona on the road in a 4 o'clock game. Then they play the first Thursday night game ever on Amazon. They go to Indy indoors, obviously week 3,
Mhm.
and then they have 2 night games. One, I believe it's one against Tampa Bay, and then one against Vegas. So you have 3 primetime games. You have 2 otherwise indoor games. I count Arizona indoors, Indy indoors, just because that if the weather's bad, it will be indoors. If Mahomes lights the world on fire in the first 5 weeks, you're never getting better than 9-1 again, right? So if you think you think that he's like anywhere close to MVP candidate this year, the time is now, right?
Incredible. What an incredible take. We went from a singular play, okay, single play sample size,
Love that.
where a running back blows a block, which is, I think that tells you everything about the running backs that they've got over there. Pacheco's probably going to be their best running back. Um, and all of a sudden, we have gone to MVP frontrunner after week 5. Now, I think you make some really good points. Now, the Cardinals defensive backs stink. And so there's an opportunity there for his receivers to kind of get off on the right foot. But, I still think you're making a bit of a gamble here on that receiving core and Andy Reid really being able to figure it out. Because I'm not going to put anything on the preseason. There's nothing about the preseason that tells me whether those receivers are going to be a consistently open for Mahomes. Will Mahomes be able to do amazing things? Yes, I have no doubt about that. And I think that he comes into this season really motivated to prove to people that he really is the best, right? After last season, where, as good as he was, it clearly was not his best effort. He comes in finally not as the MVP favorite. They come in finally not as the team that everyone thinks is the favorite to win it all. That's the Bills and Josh Allen, despite the fact that they beat the Bills and Josh Allen last year. So there's that chip on the shoulder as well. 9-1, tie your money up for an entire season. It's better than betting a win total. So I'm with you on that. It's not quite Trey Lance, who apparently has more money bet on him to win MVP than anyone else. I personally think we and Drew Dinsick should take credit for that, as we have pumped that up, and we'll be making ourselves available for one hell of a party if he wins MVP. Gonna rent out all of Stadium Swim for that. So yeah, I can understand it. I actually really like week 1. They're 3.5. It has moved out from 3.
There are some places you can get 3. I think you can get 3 at our pals at BetMGM.
I just,
Oh, did it
man,
just move?
uh, I'm not looking at it at this moment, but I am looking at the Arizona Cardinals defense.
I don't think you want to stare directly at it. I know,
It's
honestly.
it's really bad. I
It's
think it's really, really, really
our
bad.
friend of the show, Vance Joseph, did a fantastic job last year of hiding that mess, because holy shit, like 2 off-ball linebackers in the first round in consecutive years, and that'd be one thing if you got Micah Parsons kind of production on them, that'd be one thing. But those 2 have been bad.
It's honestly kind of amazing that some people, the things that some people get away with and still have jobs, is remarkable. It really is. Any other teasable games that you like before we get out of here?
Um, yeah, I think when I look at the rest of the games, this is a favorite teasing down type of week. So Cincinnati, Baltimore is now at -7. Obviously, I think if you read me and Ben's column early in the offseason, you could have got it at 4.5. The most predictable thing of all time is the Ravens every year opening as like 4.5 point favorites on the road, and then it getting out to like 6.5 or 7. So it's currently 7 because of the Flacco thing. You can tease them down to -1. Cincinnati is -6.5. You can tease them down to -0.5. San Francisco 6.5. You can tease them down to -0.5. Those are all one, and the totals for all those games are modest enough where that's a good bet. The one that those 3, I think, like either and we don't parlay. This is again one of those things. Parlays are bad bets, right? So I wouldn't say like money line parlay these 3 together, unless you have a significant edge on any of them. Then the math can work for you. But those are 3 where the totals are lower. The favorite, in my opinion, significantly outclasses the underdog, and you're betting them to win essentially for those. Cleveland out to 7.5 is one where, if you, and Brissett's kind of a quarterback where in Indy was fairly good. Um, that's kind of, that's kind of where I'm going with that one.
I love Cleveland out to 7.5. I love it. I absolutely love it. Um, you don't tell me that defense is going to be juiced up to play against Baker Mayfield. I mean, come on. Um, and Myles Garrett is going to he's going to do well, I think, against Ike Ekwonu, rookie, on the offensive line for Carolina. So I like all of those. I think, I don't love teas not getting 7 there, but with those low totals, you make a good point. The only thing I would be wary of is, in a world where they are calling more defensive holding penalties, are you better off, just betting some of those totals? So a lot of different opportunities. Obviously, we've got player props coming our way very, very soon. I'm gonna make you give the good people a couple of college football plays, but before I do, I just want to remind people about something that we've talked about before, which is Symbol, SIMBULL. It's a stock market for sports. Symbol, they were PFF sponsor last year, and they're back this football season. Lets you trade pro and college teams like stock. Or crypto or whatever the hell else you're trading out there, and earn a cash dividend on payouts when your teams win. Symbol took the thrill of sports betting and combined it with the profitability of the stock market. It's an interesting way to put it, but sure. And their platform is where fortune favors the fan, not to be confused with crypto.com where fortune favors the bold. But since Matt Damon started that, I think they're down like 60%. So not like that. Download the Symbol mobile app for iOS by searching SIMBULL in the App Store and use the code FORECAST, FORECAST, to receive a free team stock valued at up to $150 upon signing up. That's a pretty good deal. The PFF team is even getting in the Symbol market themselves, rumor has it. So Eric has been in before. We'll see if he gets in again. Download the app and create a free account. Enter the code FORECAST to get your free stock valued at up to $150 and compete against us, I guess, on this season with Symbol, or with us, I think would be the right term. We will do our best to point you all in the right direction. College football, Eric, it's finally back. No one loves it more than you. Second, of course, is me. Huge fan of college football, especially crappy college football. So give me some crappy college football to bet on.
Yeah, there's gonna be crappy college football. We will be in the I'll be in the desert Friday and Saturday. I think you might even make an appearance.
I'm gonna try.
So I will be up at 9 a.m. Pacific time to bet my Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, I actually was looking at bets I had made like back when the numbers went out, and basically I just took any bet on my book where it was different than Circa's. I bet, because we didn't have our model up at the time. I just literally tried to bet bad numbers. I did get Nebraska, my Cornhuskers, at -10 against the Northwestern Wildcats overseas. I can't remember where they're playing, but they're playing in Europe, I believe. It's now out to -13. I still would bet it. I think the Cornhuskers last year, like one of the the funniest stats of all of last year was Nebraska was 1-8 in the conference, and their point differential in conference was 0. So they like won a game by 40, and then they lost the other 8 games by 40 combined. So they were like the best 3-9 team in college football history. So maybe you're getting a value there. That one's not really with our model, but I think that there's enough narratives here. There's also the whole thing. There was a guy, actually the guy that wrote that article for the Lincoln Journal Star or whatever it was called, was like, he used to go to the church I went to, and I lived in Lincoln. So Sam McEwen wrote that article about how like the offensive linemen were throwing up in Nebraska because Dominic Raiola was such a good offensive line coach, kind of that shit. And then 2 other ones. This one's actually moved in our direction already since I wrote it down in our notes, but the Charlotte 49ers, I did this for you, George. The Charlotte 49ers are getting 7 against the Florida Atlantic Owls. There was 7.5, so you're losing a little bit of value there. I'd still take the full touchdown there with the Charlotte 49ers. And then last but not least, and this is one where you can chase your losses a little bit, Brad Spielberger's Vanderbilt Commodores.
Yes,
going
in Hawaii.
to Hawaii to take on the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. At home, the disrespect, the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors getting 6.5-point underdogs to look. It's an SEC team, but barely in the Vanderbilt Commodores. I'm taking not Hawaii plus 6.5. No. This is college football. We buy variance here. I'm taking Hawaii plus 204 on the money line.
There you
to
go.
open the season 1-0 against the Doors.
I'm all aboard on that. I'm all aboard on the Niners, and I'm all aboard. I'm taking the Niners plus 236, and I'm taking the Rainbow Warriors plus 204, baby. And it's going to be a fantastic. You root for chaos. If you were watching college football and you are betting on favorites and not rooting for chaos, may God have mercy on your soul. There's nothing I can do for you. That was our podcast. It was a delightful one. No, we didn't have a guest today. It's just you and I, but I felt like we really brought the juice. We still need to figure out the new name. I've gotten a lot of really good stuff from people. I'm not sure that the right one has come our way yet. A new name for our listeners. We got to figure that
we got
out.
feedback that Illuminati sounds too much like Illuminati, and like that's something you can't have. So that one's off.
That's not good.
That one's off.
Maybe Vegas will inspire you or us or something. We've got to figure that out, and we've got to figure out what we're doing in terms of like our contest slash not contest, but our commitment to our fans and the party that we will throw if we win a lot of bets this year. When we win a lot of bets this year. So lots that will be happening. We'll be back with you on Wednesday. We hope you have a great start to your week, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.